All right, welcome everyone again. This is Rock Your Webinar workshop hosted by Career Center. My name is Thuy Nguyen and I'm one of the career counselors there at the Career Center. I work mainly with students from College of Humanities and the Arts and also from communication studies majors. However, we have 7 counselors in total, and each of us working with different majors and groups. So hopefully you know your counselor, your career counselor by now. If not, we will share a website that you can go on and find your career counselor for all the questions. So for today webinar, let's talk about resume, right? Before I'm gonna dive into so many good informations, updated news and info, I'm gonna introduce my colleague today, Susanna, and I'll pass it over for her to introduce herself.
Hi everyone, I'm Susanna Romero. I'm the counseling graduate intern at the Career Center. I'm currently pursuing my master's in counseling and guidance. So today I will be helping facilitate the chat. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat or message me directly so that we can get your questions answered. But I'm really excited to support this webinar today.
All righty, thank you, Susanna. So as I mentioned earlier, there's going to be a lot of interactive activities. So let's start with the first one. If you have your phone, you can scan the QR code on the screen, or you can simply click the link in the chat that Susanna will post, and you can type in your burning questions in there, because let's start with you. I know most of us already have a resume draft somewhere, maybe a while ago, or you just started out. But you probably already have some questions of like, what is it? What is the length of the resume I need to have? So type it in there, a quick questions about your resume so that we can see, are we on the same page of all these questions? Or we already know a lot of the basic information and we want to be on an advanced level so that I can see how I can customize this workshop for you all. Awesome. I see many questions coming in right now. Are there free resume website you recommend? What do I really need to put on my resume? Exactly. You only have 1 page or 2 pages. So what exactly should I put and what to leave out? How to fill out if I have little to no prior job volunteer experience? These are great questions, so keep them coming in. I'm still seeing participant typing in. I love this curiosity that you already have. How to customize for a job description? Yes. How to describe previous jobs? Those are the bullet points writing, right? We're gonna go over those for sure. Awesome. If you have multiple roles, what do you list them all? How to create professional resume? Performance metrics. There we go. We're talking about impact statement right here, right? What are all sections that need is how to describe your skills. Okay, this is great start. If you still have questions, definitely you can continue putting in the chat, Zoom chat, because I'm gonna close this out. And then we have the next questions to gauge where you are right now with your current resume, because there's a lot of information to put in a resume. But what do you think are the most important sections? So let me know in the chat. Relevant experience, yes. What else do you think? Do we need volunteer activities, educational qualifications, skills? Skills, I see it again. Great. Relevant skills, right? We have so many skills that we built throughout the years, but what is the most relevant to put in there? Contact information, don't forget that. You need that for sure. Yes, what you've accomplished. Perfect. Relevant schooling and education as well. All right, please wrap up your answers and we can start diving in. Awesome. You can see the word cloud right there. We all agree that skills and experience and educations are very important sections. And we will go right into what I would suggest to be the format and the section titles and the order of it as well that you can reference when writing your first resume or whether it is for a job and internship. There's gonna be points on the resume where you can customize it, and I will point that out for you as we go through. So on the screen, you're seeing the top half of the resume, which is the most important area that you should show the most relevant skills, education, and experience on that. I cut this in half. It's not this short of a resume, right? This is the top half. So you can see that the top of the resume is your name in the middle. You can include contact information was one of the most important information. So what about what do we say in the contact? Do we need the full address? No, you just need to say your city, state, and zip code. Why? Because a lot of employers are still hiring within the local area and they might extend further out to look at candidates out of state, out of the country. But if you can show that you are based out of the city that they're hiring the positions for right now, it is a good start. So make sure to include city, state, zip code, email address. There's conversation about whether to use SSU email or Gmail account, but if you are apply for out of campus positions anywhere, I would say that your personal Gmail address should be used because then you can keep the email chains and all the information. And when you start working with them, they might use that email address to send you information and all of the projects that you're gonna keep through that in conversation and networks. It will still be with you versus if you use CSU email, guess what? After 12 months of graduation, you're going to lose access to it. And then your phone number and LinkedIn profile if you can. All right. Just a quick reminder. Yeah, I know that sometimes it's like the audio is on, but you didn't notice. So moving down to the next section, which is the objective. This is optional, but you saw the note there that if you decided to include this, make sure to customize. This is the area that is highly customizable. I would usually spend about, 10 minutes or so really craft out one or two sentences about who you are, what you're looking for, and what are your top skills that are the most relevant to the job you're applying for. And you can be as specific as what position at which organization you're applying to. So if you look at the example here, it's seeking a grant associate position with San Jose Foundation of Education and Advancement, right? If you want to go one step further, you can say excited to bring in your skill 1, skill 3 to do what? Tie in the mission statement of that organization in there, and that would highly bring your resume to the top. The next section, definitely education. Hopefully most of us here, whether you're in a bachelor degree program or a master degree program, you know what is the official title of your degree, right? So look that up if you don't know whether it's a BA or BS, what it is called on the SSU catalog page. Make sure to plug that in there correctly. You can also add your associate degree or any coursework, college level coursework that you've taken before if you're a transfer student. And it should be in the reverse chronological order, so whichever the most recent on the top. You can see on the right-hand side, all the dates are aligned to the right, and it's very important that you keep it consistent, whether you choose to use number format or half numbers, half letter like this example. You can spell out the month and then add the date, add the year, or you can use just numbers, but just keep it consistent. GPA, whether to include or not, the general rule of thumb is that whatever you include on your resume is a talking point for an interview. So if you're proud of your GPA, make sure to put that in there. And a lot of time, you will see on the job description whether they have a preferred GPA. For example, if they say preferred GPA 3.2, And if you have a 3.0, maybe you can leave that out, right? So based off the job description, you can decide. For STEM majors, sometimes the job will ask for a little bit higher of a GPA, so you can also take note of that. Relevant coursework is something you can include even if you're in the progress of taking that courses. You can always put in the brackets to say in progress, but it's a great place to show that you have the skills and knowledge about a topic that you might not have work experience in. For example, the students here have taken public finance just out of interest, but they are not in a finance major and they've never worked in finance before. But it would be very helpful skill for their internship that they're applying for right now. So the grant associate at the objective, we know, right? So they put it in there. So include 3 to 5 upper division courses that will show the skills that would be useful for the job you're applying for. Project experience. This is an area that sometimes is named differently. I've seen in a lot of resume called academic projects or just project. Make sure to add the term experience in there. Why? Because this is going to be counted as part of your experience. If you don't put experience in the section heading, the resume scanning software will not be able to read it as part of your experience. So you can customize your different types of experience: project experience, leadership experience, volunteer experience, or just work experience in general, but make sure to add the word experience in there. Okay. And then when you start writing about the experience, the order of what you put in, whether it's the title of your job title and then the company, you can choose either way. We put mostly the job title first and then the company and then city and state right next to it. On the right-hand side, you will have the time and duration of your work or the project, and then 2 to 3 bullet points to describe what are the top accomplishments you had done. Not just your duties, because if you list out all of your duties, it's probably like a 5-page long resume. So the strategy is to go over just the top 3. All right. Let's move on to the next half of the resume. And by the way, if you have any questions about any of the things I'm mentioning here, feel free to put it in the chat, the Zoom chat, and we will address it throughout and at the end as well. So now that we move on to the second half of the resume, we can talk about work experience. And by that, I mean it could be paid or unpaid. In this case, the student was a volunteer activities coordinator. It was an unpaid position, but it is intensive enough to be treated as a work experience. It was over a past of 7 months that they've done this. They designed and implemented programs for a group of 15 students. That's pretty significant. And they also had other skill they utilized within this role, like creative and innovative learning techniques, all of this. So if you have any on-campus job or volunteer position, you can put it in your work experience here. Just one note, if that is an on-campus position, after you list the job title, for example, if you were a student orientation leader, right? And it was with SJSU as an employer, but you should not put San Jose State University as an employer, because that will be signified as your education instead of job. So make sure to put an abbreviated version like SJSU and then department of something. Make it slightly different than how you spell it under your education. Last but not least is skills and activities. So for skills section, it's mainly about your technical and measurable skills, because most of the soft skills or transferable skill, such as problem solving, critical thinking, or teamwork, all of those should instead be demonstrated throughout the bullet point of your resume instead of listing down under the skills section. So if you look at your resume right now and you see a bunch of those skills, remove them and try to find a way to incorporate them throughout. So for example, if you look at the grant associate position right here, the second bullet point said consulted with current and potential donors. What skills is it implying? Communication, negotiation, right? There's so many skills within just those 7 words that you can describe it. I'm gonna ask Susanna to put in the chat the resume and cover letter guide PDF. If you have questions about, okay, how do I describe problem solving or critical thinking in my bullet point, go to the page of action verbs. You will see the skills categories and what kind of verbs you can use to describe that skill. I found it very helpful to expand my vocabulary because I love saying let something multiple times, right? But there's other words you can use to describe leadership, for example. So try that out. All right. The activities is optional. You can just simply say what group, student, organization, or some kind of one-time activities that you've done, but not intensive enough to be like a work experience. So things like here, member of a Poets and Writers Coalition, you can just list it there without any bullet point to describe. Okay. So all the information here is the general guideline of what to include, how to write the resume. But in general, if you look at all of those blue headings that we have or blue notes that we have here, it's mostly about formatting. So things like your font type, font size at the end, you see here, sans serif font like Arial, Calibri, and Tahoma are better to read. And also, it's more standardized to those resume scanning software. We usually call it ATS to read and scan. And so you can choose where you want to bold it, italicize or something, but it won't really matter for the software to scan your content. Just make sure that you create your resume out of a blank page versus using any templates at all, especially those with Canva, the design software. They might look beautiful, but once you scan that PDF from Canva through an online resume scanning portal, it read as nothing. No text are being able to scan out, and your resume might end up in somewhere that never been reviewed. So you don't want to do that. Make sure to create your resume from a word processing platform, whether it's Google Doc or Microsoft Word, and from a blank page, okay? And whenever you submit your resume to for a job, you then can export that Word document to a PDF, to just download a Word file of it and then submit it. Doesn't matter, but you can take a look at the job description to see what the employers are asking for. All right, so it's a lot of information already. I want to take a moment here and pause and see if there's any questions about formatting, because next we will move on to the content writing, which is way more important than just the formatting, right? But formatting is very important. So if you have any questions that I haven't covered, let me see through here. Susanna, if you see some questions
So
that I can start.
there was a question about whether or not this was a standard order to follow or if the sections could be interchangeable.
It's a great question. As I mentioned earlier, the top half of the resume is most important. So if I go up to the first half here, you're applying for a job, for this case, a grant associate position for this student. What are the skills that are most relevant to this, right? Community project development, community engagement, grant writing, negotiating, maybe fundraising. So if you have any of those skills, I would try to bring them up front. But because this student did not work in those positions directly. So they felt that their school project about the class project about school development project was more relevant. So they brought it up. So in summary, you can decide in what order you want to put it first, but most of the time, the education, project experience, work experience, and skills could be interchangeable, depending. So if you're a STEM major and the job that you're applying for are highly technical, I'll bring the skills section up even before my project experience, right? Because it shows all of the types of skills that I'm good at, including programming language, framework, all of those. So you get to decide. Right?
Another student had a question about if a resume could be more than one page.
That's a good question as well. So the ATF, the applicant tracking software system, do not discriminate whether you have multiple pages or just one page. However, usually after you pass the first scanning round of the resume, there's gonna be next round of reviewing resume and the next round, right? So at some point, it's gonna be ended up in a human eye. So if you want for them to review all of the information that you've written, then make sure to have it within a time frame that they can read. And that led to that my next quiz question. How much time do you think they have to read your resume? So I think, oops, sorry, I think I have my poll deleted here. But let me know how much time do you think each human employer will have to look through your resume so that we can determine on the length? 1 minute, 5 minutes, 7 seconds, or 30 seconds? I'm throwing out numbers there. 30 seconds, 7 seconds, 1 minute, 5 minutes. I see a lot of answers in the seconds options here. 1 minute is probably the most generous I've seen here. All right. Nobody said 5 minutes. Great. I think you have very good knowledge about recruiters' timeline already. So there we go. I even see the F scan there. Have you ever read those research paper of where recruiters' eyes are actually moving on the page of your resume? It looks like an F, right? They go across, go down, briefly across, and at the end, it's just like straight down, not even reading the rest. So with the right answer or the answer that we found from that research is between 7 and 10 seconds. So if you read your own resume, give yourself 10 seconds and decide how long it should be, right? So within 10 seconds, can you grasp all of the information to determine that you have all of the must-have skills or required skill and qualification, and maybe a lot of those preferred qualification? So that's a rule of thumb that I usually give myself when deciding whether I should have a 1 page or a page and a half, maybe. But once I got to the bottom, the second page, I know for sure that no one's going to make it there. So I would say do your best to put the most relevant information on your first page, even better, the first half of the first page. If it's really have to go on the second page, that's okay. Just know that recruiters might not make it there. Okay. All right, so let's talk about resume writing, content piece now. So before you even jumping into write your bullet points, make it accomplishment statement, adding quantifiable numbers in it, what do you need to do first? Let me know in the chat. I have a hint on the screen here. Before you actually write, put so much time into writing, what do you need to do? Identify keywords. Yes. I see keywords, phrases from job listing. Exactly. So we all know that customization is key for a resume and to stand out as a candidate. How do we customize? We don't know what we're looking for or what we're targeting. So an easy way to have an overview of all the keywords is that if you're looking for a specific role, let's say software engineer, if you look at 10 different job postings for software engineering, and you can highlight all of the themes and common qualifications and skill that you see through this 10 job posts, you probably will get a list of about 50 or so keywords, phrases, or I would say buzzwords from this. And from there, you can find a way to craft a resume for all of the software engineer roles. Um, so this is an example of how you read those jobs and quickly highlight them. And for this role here is a student assistant on-campus job. There is a required qualification and a preferred qualification sections. I would very strongly make sure that I have all or most of the things under required qualifications highly customized on my resume. And if you have the preferred qualification, it's good, but at least you tackle the required one. So we have customer service, diverse culture, we have Word and Excel, Google Suite, verbal and written communication, interpersonal skill, business correspondent, standard office equipment, typing. With quickly this one job, I have 8 keywords I pulled up already. So if you look at 9 more positions in the same phase, you will have a list of all of those. So now that we know how to analyze a job, there's also one more concept that even if you don't know exactly what roles you're applying to yet, there's still an overarching theme of the top skills all employers across different industry are looking for. And even if you don't have experience in any of the specific technical side, you can still find experience or class project that show one of these 8 skills. Here we go. We have problem solving. So things like if you've done customer service, you've took on projects that address complex problems, ability to work in a team, right? We all know that's important. Written communication skills. So if you help with an email inbox from a department because you were a front desk assistant, or you work at a writing center, etc., or even you wrote an APA research paper. Those are all things you can include in your resume. Strong work ethic, and what exactly is it? Take initiative to do things. Meet project deadlines, keep commitments, and communicate clearly. Flexibility and adaptability. Things like if you organize events, even just for a small group of project group of 4 people to meet weekly to talk about projects. That's flexibility and adaptability. If you learn and teach yourself a software or something that nobody's helped you out, but you learn how to learn it yourself. So that is also flexible. Verbal communication, and you see here that communications are mentioned twice, both written and verbal, so that I hope you see how important it is in all types of jobs, whether you're highly technical or you're more in the liberal arts phase. All right, any questions about these skills? I think it's pretty straightforward. So again, if you remember, try to plug this skill into your bullet point when you describe each job, instead of list them down into the skill section. And if you're still questioning, what are my top skills? I don't really know. These are some great questions to ask yourself that you can reflect on and just have like a 5 minutes free writing and answer these. What problems do you like to solve? Like, when was the last time somebody asked you to help them with something? And what classes you are doing really well? How about the strengths and skills that you like using? And what do other people say you do really well? If they come to you and say, hey, you've made this look so easy, how did you do that? That is your skills and strength. And then you can look back at your coursework and see what particular assignment or activity within the class you enjoy more. So the slide, we are not sharing the PDF slide, but you can go back to the recording, which you will be able to stop at any of the slides. So yeah, I see that question's in there. Um, I saw also a guest speaker question. That is actually a very wonderful experience. You can put in work experience. Um, Definitely mention like the title of the event, guest speaker. And if you work with an organization, that would be the employer, right? And then the time, maybe you can put the date exactly of that day and describe 2 bullet points about it. So there's different way that you can describe a diverse experience. And if you ever seen like artists resume as well, right? They would also have lists of exhibitions, galleries they have, attended, and it could be just a name and the date. But again, it is highly customizable. Okay, so let's pause here and think about how do we actually stand out? If now all of you know what its best format is, what the orders to put, what to highlight, all the skills everyone's looking for, then what makes you special, right? So, one way I like to think about it is that your stories is very unique to you. Even if you work in a job for 2 days or 20 years, if you look back at it, there's gonna be 3 to 5 main things that you can talk about as the proudest moment or achievement that you've done. Even if it's the 2 day jobs, really, you can always find something. So if you look at each experience you're going to include on your resume in that mindset, you will be able to form an accomplishment mindset. And and from there, every single bullet point you're going to write will show that. So how do we ask ourselves those questions? What did I do in those 3 biggest things that I can mention? So things like the situation, the task, or the problem that just came across when you were working. And how did you go about resolving it? Or how did you do to react to the situation? And then the last thing is what was the result? So we all wanted to know um, whether you were successful doing that or whether you gain an insight by choosing a different options to react to the situation. All of those are results. So it could be quantifiable or it's just a positive feelings or impacts that you created. So if you think of it that way, we can improve a very basic bullet points here to make it looks like or sounds more like an accomplishment statement format. All right, so let's take a look here. This is a student assistant position. So the student look back and really think the 3 biggest thing over this whole 3 months that they've worked in this role, they've done a lot of helping the SSU student to find resources. They also assist with event information, passing out promotional materials and all that. And they also took care of the front desk digitally and greet visitors every day. So to them, it is really impactful and meaningful job. But if you look at the resume here, it's missing something, right? So if you remember the previous slide, let me know in the chat, what do you think we can add here to make these bullet points really strong? So the first one, we have what they did. Do we have a result? Yes, how the person helped the student. Exactly. So how did you do that, right? That was the second question. Quantity, quantify it. So this is kind of a qualitative roles, or a lot of these tests have an impact, but how do you quantify the numbers here? Maybe how many students you helped on a daily basis? Or with the event thing, what was the scope of the event? Would it advertise for campus-wise, which is thousands of students, right? Or visitors? What are the visitors numbers? Those are the things you can add to show the scope. And here we go. This is improved bullet point. We start with a stronger verb. Instead of help, we would use promote, because that show more skills than helping, or it's clearer than what exactly is did you do in helping. So promote student success. How did they do that? By connecting students with resources and services. And what was the result? And you see here an example of a qualitative results. So increasing college engagement among Spartans. How do they know that? Because after the conversation they gave, or after the guidance they gave to the student was like, "Thank you so much, I appreciate it." Those are the things that you, when you did the job, but it's really hard to quantify, but you still can put it in here. So you felt the impact in the task that you do. That's how you can include in the bullet point. Same thing with the second one, develop bi-weekly newsletter and collaboration, right? And the result is also increasing awareness and attendance. And you also know that because you probably have seen registration number go up, or you just know that you talk to people and they're like, I'm excited about this event. And then the last thing is where you can plug in a little bit of numbers here because we have 25 visitors daily that we talk to, and we manage the front desk area, making referrals. So you see how it is developed now, right? So I would ask that after today, when you look back at your resume, each bullet point, just try to ask yourself, can you add a little bit more of how did I do it and what the results were, whether it's a qualitative or quantifiable. So things like what software did you use in that actions? It's also very helpful to show parts of how did you do it and the positive results as well. Okay, so we're almost at the last slide, but this is just a recap of what we've been talking about in terms of ATS. So applicant tracking system is a software that are used by a lot of employers, especially those mid and large size employers, to filter and rank applicants' resumes. And there's so many different types of ATS softwares out there. That was why we recommend that you always start your resume with a blank page and export it directly from your word processing platform to whether a PDF or a Word doc, depending on the job description, right? If they're asking for a specific file format, it is because their ATS software can only read that type of format. So make sure to take note of that when you're applying. And if you don't say anything, it usually means that their software can read either or. So you can choose a PDF, Google Doc, but make sure to avoid any of those graphic design software like Canva, Adobe. The PDF from there is not gonna work. I see a question in the LaTeX overleaf. I actually have not tried it before, but I've seen print out resume that other students have used to create it. If you feel like it would pass through a plain, like if you save as a plain text document and it read in the right order you want it, definitely that's fine. So just a recap here, the software keywords is important because that is how the ATS is going to rank your resume. The more relevant keywords you're using throughout your resume, through your bullet points under the skills section, your major, if it fits with what their rubric are on their end, those keywords will help you help your resume to be ranked higher. And so ATS also have this called taxonomy system scanning. So meaning you don't have to copy and paste exactly what is said on the job description, but they would understand similar words. So that is why I suggested earlier that look at 10 different job description for same position and see what are the different ways they use, they describe the qualification there, and find ways to include some of them into your resume. For example, they can read negotiate as communication. If you use the phrase initiate something, they might read it as leadership, right? So they have their own system of ranking and the employers can set it up on their end. The formatting, we already mentioned it. Make sure to include experience in your section titles. and avoid templates. Any columns, graphics, stay away. That is why we don't use templates, right? And then the length, we already mentioned this, 1 page is ideal, especially for on-campus job and internship when you kind of just starting out. But if you are a master degree student, you have more work experience, it's totally fine to get to 1.5 pages and second 2 pages. But yeah, just make sure that the most relevant to the job are on the top. All right, this is a quick quiz or multiple choice for you. So I pull up these two samples. One is ATS friendly and the others is non-ATS friendly. Now take a look real quick and let me know in the chat what makes the one on the right not ATS friendly from all of the things that we covered today. Yes, immediately you see beautiful images, color. This person is wearing a pair of sunglasses, looking a little bit angry. I can't tell, but it's definitely, I can't see their eyes. And then there's logos of the companies. Is that a Google logo? What is that? Gee, I can't even tell. There's templates, yeah, graphics everywhere. The font size, the skills are off. Oh yeah, you're good eye. I can't even read all the skill, but like what are those? Yeah. Why would you use that bar? Like, is it a percentage? Probably use the tables, right? There is somewhere in there a table of columns. So all the things above that we mentioned that we should not do. So good. Looks like all of you understand what it is to not do. I don't really have the any recommendation for free ATS score detection, but it's a very easy test for you to save as in your Word document to save as a plain text TXT file just to double check the order, whether it reads correctly, like if the time match with the position or the locations. So sometimes you might start it out with a template and forgot to remove it completely. It might switch it on the back, but when you save it as a plain text, it will all show up. If it's not, if it's disrupted somewhere, you will see it. All right, so yeah, this is just I meant to show this and ask your question, but we already put in the chat and you all were correct, right? The previous resume, the text were all jumbled and in the tables. Font was weird. There's graphs showing the skills that was not going to be read by the ATF for sure. The header and objective will go undetected because there's no good font and they didn't call it experience or the right section title. And the objective is like seeking a job, but without saying objective at the top. It's logos, photos everywhere. Dates aren't formatted in the consistent way. So make sure to not do that and do the opposite for these. All right. So after today, you probably wanted to jump right into your resume and start editing a bunch of the details and new knowledge that you've learned. But there's one tool that we have at the Career Center called VMock that could help you even make this process faster by uploading whatever resume that you have in a PDF format. Upload to VMock and it will give you instantaneous feedback for you to know, okay, I can choose a stronger verb here, or I can add a little bit more numbers here. So it will show you immediately and you can go through it and edit your resume. The next step, after that, you still wanted to have another eyes to look at your resume, you can book an appointment on Spartan Connect with the topic of resume and cover letter writing with any of our career counselors. We can help reviewing it with you. So other than that, the resume guide PDF has all the great things and information that you can refer to, even though we're not sharing the slide here, but all the information are pulled from that PDF. So make sure to do that, look at it, look at the action verbs, right? And then this is just if you just want to drop by the Career Center for the Career Closet or professional headshot, I know you should not put your headshots on your resume, right? Don't do that. But it would be helpful for your LinkedIn profile. So here's a slide for you. Want to take a photo? I'm going to leave it there for a second. You can make an appointment for Career Closet or just drop in within those time frame for the professional headshots. That's also in the chat as well. Thank you, Susanna. All right. Last but not least, further questions, feel free to address to our email address as careerhelp@sjsu. Susanna to put it in the chat for you. And also check out our website. There's so many other topics and guides and events, exciting events coming up this fall for you. And if you could put in the chat the event link as well, that would be awesome. And last but not least, we are at time, but I'm going to stay until 12 to answer any questions. I would very appreciate your feedback and comment of the webinar today. If you could scan the QR code or click on the link of the survey link, and I'll ask Susanna in the chat. Let me know what you learned today, what you think could be improved, or what else would you like to see in a resume webinar so we can continue developing this webinar for all of you. All right, I'm going to stop recording and thank you so much for joining us today. Hopefully we can see you in the next webinar soon.
To either